Everyone, and welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 19th, and it's now 1:30, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
We could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could have the invocation, please.
Let us pray. Eternal and loving Creator, we gather before you today humbly asking your guidance and blessing as we begin this meeting. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve our community and the privilege of working together towards the betterment of our town. In this season of harvest and Thanksgiving, we pause to acknowledge the many gifts you have bestowed upon us: our health, our families, our nations, and this great land upon which we live. Lord, we recognize that we are different. We're all different in so many ways, in our backgrounds, our beliefs, and our perspectives. Yet we know that we are united in our desire to create a town that is just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. We ask that you give us the grace to work through our differences with humility and respect, and to always seek the common good in pursuit of the greater good. As we gather this afternoon, may we listen attentively to each other, speak with honesty, and engage in dialogue that is respectful and thoughtful. Help us to set aside our own personal agendas and approach each issue with an open heart and mind, considering the needs of the community as a whole. Grant us the courage to make decisions that may not always be easy, but are necessary for the health and future of this town. In this season of Thanksgiving, we are especially grateful for the gift of our wonderful community. We give thanks for the relationships that bind us together, for the spirit of cooperation and mutual support that strengthens those bonds, and for the opportunity to work together in the service of something greater than ourselves. May we always remember that our work here is not just for today, but for the generations to come. And may we leave a legacy of kindness, integrity, and hope behind us. We ask for your blessing on this meeting and for all of us who gather, that it may be a time of productive discussion, thoughtful deliberation, and meaningful purpose. Guide our words, guide our hearts, guide our actions, so that they may reflect your will and bring about the best possible outcome for all. We offer all of these things to you in gratitude, humility, and faith, trusting that you will never leave us alone and will guide us in every step we make. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
I move we accept the agenda as presented.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving along to presentations, Police Officer Commendation Award.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Thank you for time on the agenda today. We have two commendations that we want to give out to our officers from the town. And I wanted to make the community aware of it and you aware of what they did. Remember back during Hurricane Helene that first hit the West Coast and some of the devastation that happened there. And then shortly after that was Milton came right behind it. What we were made aware of was Treasure Island on the West Coast, how bad they were hit. Similar type demographic size department and community on the West Coast of Florida and the need that they were in of assistance, specifically a boat for some Marine unit. A lot of devastation. Chief himself, his home, their police department, 3 feet of mud, whatever was in there. It was a real disaster. We had the opportunity to offer the invitation and asked if we could help, along with FAU. Officer Jim Thornton and Officer Steve Salak went over to the West Coast on short notice, took our boat over, took our beach vehicle over there, and a group of 10 or so went over into Treasure Island and assisted them. Mind you, these officers had already been deployed, hadn't been home in already a couple of weeks from the first hurricane, working around the clock, no power, flooding, extensive damage, curfews. Very, very difficult situation. We came to them and said, hey, they need some help. They said, what do you need? And they just volunteered. I give them a lot of credit. They committed without checking with home. True testament to your marriage, but real professionals that we work with, understanding that if we needed that type of aid, others would be there for that. So very honored to be able to honor them. Town manager's office to issue them a commendation. If we could bring them up this morning. Jim Thornton and Steve Salak. Let me read what the town, their commendation for exceptional performance. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude and commendation for the remarkable dedication and excellence you have demonstrated in your role. Your commitment to going above and beyond the call of duty has not gone unnoticed and is truly worthy of recognition. Your selfless contribution of time and effort to support those affected by Hurricane Milton in Treasure Island, Florida speaks volumes about your character. Traveling across the state to assist with our Marine Patrol unit, you played a crucial role in restoring stability to individuals and community in crisis. This act of service reflects not only on your personal values, but also the core principles that define our organization. Your sacrifice of personal time and comfort, coupled with your unwavering commitment to helping those in need, exemplifies an extraordinary work ethic and deep sense of purpose. These qualities not only contribute to our team's success, but also set a powerful example of compassion and excellence within our workplace. Please accept this letter as formal recognition of your exceptional performance. Your dedication is deeply appreciated and serves as an inspiration to all. We are fortunate to have employees like you who embody the spirit of our mission and make such a meaningful impact on our success. Thank you for your outstanding contributions. I want to say, they did this on short notice. They picked up, we're supposed to leave in 48 hours. They called back and said, they're in bad shape. Can you come today? These guys went home, got their stuff after working 2 days already, went over there for an unknown period, ended up spending 6 days, working 12-hour shifts, assessing some of their damage on the water, relieving their officers so they can get home to them, bunking at night in less than ideal conditions, I can tell you. So I'm glad that we can give them this accommodation. I'm proud to have officers like this that make this commitment, that have that level of training, experience, and dedication to do that in the community. We know that's going to come back to us. Hopefully we never need that, but for them to step up and represent us so well, we're proud to have them, proud to give them this commendation today. Thank you for doing that. Let us recognize them here in this meeting. So thank you both.
Thank you.
I won't read the whole thing because it's a little more mushy, but this is the first time I've ever given accommodation to spouses. So we have one for Jim's wife and Steve's partner. So we forget about that, right? Like they're the ones that they leave to go do this type of stuff. So for someone to come home that doesn't travel for a living, says, "Oh, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days on short notice." That's a sacrifice that they make, and we know that the family makes. We certainly appreciate that. We have accommodations for them also. You see these guys here. I'm so proud to work with all these officers. But indulge me 1 second. You see me up here. You see the officers in the field. You get to work with Mike Go and Eric Aronowitz, and those are the guys that behind the scenes. I'll put those two up against any staff in this county. They get things done. Decades of experience. Their training, their dedication. Second to none. They make us look good. They make it look effortless. It is not. A lot of hard work that they do behind the scenes that really sets us apart from the agencies. Can't get this stuff done without them, and I can't thank them enough. So thank you for your support for all these guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Nora.
You make us very proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the families. Moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments? So we had a letter. This is
Yeah.
carried over.
Yes, from Barbara Nessel. She said she was going to attend today, so.
Okay. I think we've had the letter, and this is now the
Yes.
second meeting that
Correct.
we've had it. So any other public comments? No? Okay, moving along, no ordinances, consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone require any discussion? If not, I think they're pretty straightforward. We can just make a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Unfinished business, building department recertification program update.
Kat, I
Bill.
think this is you. Thank you, John.
We get handouts.
I know. Thank you.
This is great.
Good afternoon, Commission.
Hmm.
My name is Katerina Jadawi. I'm an ICC certified permit technician here, and I coordinate the milestone inspection program for the building department. So I'm here to give an update. Right now, we have 14 buildings recertified. Last commission meeting, we had 12. In that period, we recertified 2 more. Our next in progress is completed phase 1 report, and they're currently under review. That's 3 buildings reviewing their phase 1 report. There's reports that were submitted and reviewed, but we do require additional information, and we're looking more into these reports. There are a total of 4 buildings. There is 1 building that they did submit the reports, but the concrete restoration application is overdue. There are 2 buildings that have concrete restoration applications in progress. They're just not issued yet. And 2 buildings that requested an extension to apply for the concrete restoration permit. We have 23 buildings under the concrete restoration permit. Last meeting, there were 21, so we have 2 more that issued between that time. 0 buildings have missed deadlines, and 0 are within the due date. We do have 4 buildings that are not mentioned, no status mentioned, because their due date is too far to be notified for those phase 1 requested reports. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like we're in good shape.
Yeah. Good
Thank
job.
you very much. Thank you for the update. Moving on to the Florida Department of Transportation, the Triple R project update.
So I may have Chief Hartman step up on this, or Chief Joseph. So as you know, we're in the throes of it now. If you haven't driven north, I don't know that I would encourage you to do it. But you could and wait in line for 40 minutes as they're going through the project. So our team has been working hard with FDOT to improve signage and some other ways of the MOT to improve circulation in that area. We've had some folks waiting just 30 to 40 minutes. Really does push one's patience. So they're working on that. Is that correct, Chief? So if you want to come up and give us any updates from what you guys talked about this morning, and how we might be able to improve the signage, kind of identify the intensity of those delays so folks can try to avoid the area as much as possible.
So yes, we do have weekly calls with FDOT. We got on there today with them, shared those concerns. We're certainly hearing that from our community, our residents. We told them that. Some of them have communicated that directly with FDOT. We've given them some ideas and some suggestions, what we see from our end, the timeframes, how long it has to sit in between traffic. They are doing quite a bit of work there right now. They're challenged up against the light against Linton Boulevard, timing with the bridge. We saw what happened Friday morning when a bridge gets stuck in the up position, and it creates a real gridlock, some of the challenges. We've shared that with them. They've been very responsive, understanding of what we're telling them. We're asking them now how to get this solved as we're going into the holiday weekend next week. We know we haven't seen the increase yet that we know is coming. They know that that's coming. They understand some of the challenges with that. They've talked about some nighttime paving. We told them that would have to be approved here. We'd like to see what that entails before, but we know after dark, once it gets dark, that volume of traffic drops right off along the stretch A1A. People aren't here for the scenic drive at night. It's during the day. So they're looking at some more aggressive signage and ways to impact that. We've made some suggestions about shorter periods in between the traffic moving during stoppage. So they're listening. We'll be back on the call again every week with them now because it is a priority. We tell them we deal with the community here directly because they're talking to us. We're the visible piece here. But something has to be changed a little bit to alleviate the volume because we know it's going to increase.
Has there been any discussion about like posting more signs? So there's like a weird location of a sign like on Spanish River
You have no idea what it's
West.
doing.
Yeah, like it seems
exactly.
like there could be a sign, there could be more signs, like maybe northbound just before, like when you're in Boca approaching Spanish River, like to kind of encourage people to get off at Spanish River. I don't know that there's a sign there that.
There is.
Oh, is there?
There's a sign on Federal, but I will tell you, doesn't really suit the needs because you don't know where it is that
Right.
there's construction going on.
But how about on A1A northbound?
Well-
Like, because that could direct you to get
Yes,
off at Spanish
Oh,
River.
absolutely. It
Is there a
should be.
sign there? I don't
No,
think so.
I don't
Yeah,
think
didn't-
so. And there really needs to be signs on Spanish River itself saying, don't turn left.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think there's one up, but it's up further west, so it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It
Seems
has
like
to
there
be
could be some
closer.
better locations.
That was Pat.
Or more.
Pat Roman's direction to them, the Public Works Director.
to
Made
them.
several suggestions about signage, increasing them and more aggressive with some of the signs and where they're located.
Well,
So-
sometimes I've seen signs where it would be when you're turning onto the road or if you're going north on A1A, it will say, be prepared for delays, road construction ahead in big bold letters, so you can't miss it.
You made
And
that
then-
suggestion today again.
People may turn off.
Right.
So we're working on that. Hopefully they'll give us some ideas of what that modified MOT is and what they would envision the details for a nighttime paving operation, which we would have to discuss. And I'll share with each of you what that would look like and if that is acceptable. We'll see what that means. I'm not really sure, but we'll see.
Are we looking at the impacts with December 5th?
Yeah, we're communicating that with them that, maybe they could shut down a little bit earlier, so we can keep the trolleys moving through so they don't sit for 40 minutes. But again, that could pose some issues, but hopefully we can work with them to, turn it down a little bit early that evening and kind of move stuff aside quicker. Because they usually stop around 5-ish, so if they can stop around 2, that would be ideal, 3 o'clock. I'm concerned with some deliveries too, if all of a sudden the tents are delayed an hour, it could put us in a spot. So hopefully we can make those improvements, but it's gonna be tricky. It's only gonna get worse, unfortunately, before it does truly get better. And I think once our seasonal residents come in full, say January through March, it's gonna be a little rough. So.
I have a question for the chief. Night work, how does that raise or lower the safety? Because I've already said, I think the people directing and walking down have been very courteous and nice from what I've witnessed. But I've also seen an accident and some near accidents of people pulling out in the dark. Would this give us a greater risk of those kind of things happening?
Yeah, great question. You're absolutely right. That's what we talked about. What we asked them is that, not just as a suggestion, we have to see the scope of that involvement, what it would be, the hours of operation, what they would do to ensure. It's certainly a safety piece for them also. Once they do the paving part of it, is a lot more involved with that. So we asked to see something before any decision was made to see how that would move forward, what they would have to do, what it would entail. The noise, there's different things that the trade-offs that we have to make to see what they get us through there. But we kind of left it with them in the call. This is their contract. This is their project. They are the professionals. We expect that they find solutions to this. We made sure that they were aware of what we're seeing on a daily basis. and some of our concerns, operationally, when we had to get through during those calls for police and fire. So, they heard that loud and clear from us this afternoon. Sure. So we should get more in writing from them, is what we're saying.
Thank you. Also, thank you, Madison, for sending us the weekly updates, so at least we know what's going on. It's
Yeah.
very helpful. Thank you.
Moving on to the sanitary sewer lining rehabilitation project.
Yeah, so we've gone around and around, Sergio and Pat and Public Works trying to find some type of piggyback vendor it's not gonna happen. So we met with the Department of Environmental Protection and their SRF or Clean Water State Revolving Fund for a municipal project to define the qualifying time. So really the idea with that is we would do the project all at once. We have the bid documents. Skender's got that all queued up. The plans are designed. It's a basically on the shelf shovel ready project. We have a series of documents that we have to fill out. I know David's got to fill out a few for the financing and the financial position background. And if we can get that all in August, it's kind of seemed like a first come, first serve. But once you qualify, they do qualified projects every quarter. So, or every couple of months, starting in August. This year, they ran out of money before they could get to the December read of projects. So we want to be in line, ready to go. Now, the good part about it, it's a 0.5 to 1% loan. I mean, basically it's free money from the Fed. So it's a good idea to use these dollars, do one big project. Now, the concern, I guess, for the general folks, the public, would be when would we start? Because we've been talking about how important the project. It's probably going to push us out about 18 months from where we are today. By the time we actually start shovel to ground. So we've got to get all the application materials. And as you would understand with a financing grant program, there's a litany of paperwork. I thought it's been improved. I started my career doing this in Michigan, the same program. They've really streamlined it, but still there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done. Get in queue, wait for August and go. So the team is meeting that. Skender and Sergio will be taking the lead on managing that project to make sure everything's completed, moved forward, and we meet that deadline so we can go out to bid in August. That will take several months, open the bids, award, secure the financing. There's a process. So, it's a 26 project. Now with that, we had some federal dollars from the America Recovery Act that were programmed. We are seeking to reprogram those to a project you are going to discuss a little bit later, a couple more agenda items down. But again, at a 0.5%, it's a good deal to go ahead and grab those dollars and finance that over the period of time because the interest rate is so exceptional. So that's kind of where we are with the project. A little bit slower, but at least we've gotten to that decision point that we can't find somebody to start and stuff a bunch of smaller projects and meet the intent. We have some legal issues too, like piggybacking to that scale of a $2 million project, and then a lot of change. So it just wasn't clean. So we pulled the plug and are going to move to a more formal program through the state.
Well, I'm glad you explored it. We at least tried. And I personally like the very low interest rate. I mean, that is excellent. So any other discussion? No. Okay. That sounds good then. Moving on to new business, approve and authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Inspire Placemaking Collective for general planning and development review services.
So Ingrid's here. I don't know if she wants to talk about this quickly, but just basically to update our comp plan. We have to do it every 7 years. Statute requires it. Ingrid has reviewed it along with the consultant. It does need an update. So we have to go through this process, this firm. We were able to get on board, and that will take us through a relatively streamlined, straightforward process to update our comp plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skender, could probably speak to the agreement, but yes, as Marshall mentioned, we are mandated by the state to look at our comp plan every 7 years. I've had some preliminary discussions with Inspire. We will trigger amendments, but actually that's going to be a separate agreement. But this agreement that's before you is for general planning services. Keep in mind the town, we had a previous professional services agreement for general planning services in the past. We had one with Calvin Giordano in 2019, or excuse me, 2016. And we also had a general planning services agreement with KCI Technologies. Earlier this year, in May of 2024, there was several professional services agreement that came before the commission. However, none of those had a planning component. So it's always a good idea to have someone, a consultant that we could rely on for any type of planning services. So that's what this is. As I said, we don't have anyone on record right now for general planning services, and that is what the agreement is.
And then also to add to that, you know, when you talk about strategic plan later on, and we have that zoning density issue, which is starting to gain some steam, this consultant
Exactly.
could help us and assist with what tools are available, how do we develop those and apply them, and how do we integrate it into the comp plan if we are truly
Exactly.
going to start making some of these changes.
Yeah, because that initiative will be town-wide, and we really will need to have a consultant come on board and do a comprehensive assessment of the town with regards to density. Yeah.
Could you give some other examples of what you would use them for?
Mostly special projects that you'll see like that, the comp plan, zoning updates. There could be some more technical zoning ordinance modifications. You may or may not know, Ingrid is on a abbreviated schedule, so she works about 32 hours a week. Development orders and the work kind of pick up sometimes. And when we work on some stuff for the Natural Resource Board and other interested dune projects, it starts to take Ingrid away from planning sometimes, and we need to fill that gap. I know that we're looking to fill that gap, right, Kat, with staff here to help with some of the development review. But you know, sometimes we're going to need some resources to plug in and help Ingrid move projects forward, especially special projects that more time, more public engagement, those type of things.
But in any event, we only pay for when we use them.
Correct.
It's not a monthly fee or anything.
Yep.
And have we dealt with them before?
No, but they came well qualified. I know Ingrid's met with them, Skender's met with them. They are inspirational, right? Inspire right now. But they come well qualified. People really like them. Smaller, more boutique firm. I think that fits our style and need. So sounds good.
Do they have contracts with any neighboring municipalities?
Yeah, so when we met with them, they have several contracts with several municipalities in Miami-Dade, I believe Broward County as well. They've given us some examples of some comp plans that they've worked on. So as I said, they have a lot of local municipal experience, which was very important to be sure that, you know, they could address Highland Beach needs. Yeah.
And I assume you've spoken to those municipalities?
I haven't spoken to all of them. I've worked in many different municipalities where we've had different consultants that, you know, can't reach out to all of them, but looking at the municipalities that they worked at, you know, to me and seeing the product, the deliverables that they provided, I felt that, you know, they looked like a great firm to work with. So I really didn't have any issues with them.
I mean, I guess for me, it's on an as needed basis. So, and there's no minimum or anything like that.
There's no minimum, but again, comp plan is a bigger one. It's under the threshold for, let's per se, a specific bid. So our comp plan's less than 50 grand to update and this and that, but they're the contractors and they've given us some a task order pricing to execute that project.
And it's easily turned.
Yep.
It is 3 years plus, what is it, 2 additional 1 year term?
Mhm.
It's the same arrangement that we have with our engineering firms, the 5 engineering firms, 5, right? 5 engineering firms are the same way. It's 3 and then 2 1 years.
I'm fine with it. You want to have make a motion?
I move that we approve the executive agreement with Inspire Placemaking Collective, Inc. for general planning and development review services.
All in favor?
No.
You want to do, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Approve and authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement between Projected Point Incorporated and the town of Highland Beach for outsourced finance director.
Yeah, so some may know, this might come as a surprise. I can't remember if I've told everybody. But Mr. Delina has decided to make some life changes. And that predominantly moves physically relocating to the west side of the state is the big life change. In so doing, he is seeking to move to a consultant relationship with his company that he started, Projected Point, for which he serves multiple municipalities in varying financial director to special project capacity. He has given us a proposal to serve as our finance director remotely. And then most of his attendance will be around our budgetary and special projects. In-house, we are making some arrangements for the day-to-day operational environment. That would be Susie and Skender, myself, kind of predominantly Susie, rolling into a bigger role on the day-to-day operations of the finance department. But again, remote, this group is going to take me kicking and screaming with remote work. So I should, learn to do a better job with that, which I will be. And with today's technology, I mean, it's just a phone call away and or a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams environment. And we can move through there. A lot of automation's already been put in place by David. So it's a pretty turnkey operation on some of the day-to-day stuff that used to be very onerous. So this is you, Dave. This is where you come in and
I actually relocated for a house, and again, I have other clients, and I will tell you this, all my other clients want to know the Highland Beach model. I'm telling you, and I'm not layering on thick, but at the end of the day, I'm proud that this local government is how government should be run. And it's phenomenal. And I've had the pleasure of working with many managers, and you've got a fantastic manager here that gives staff enough rope to do what they think is the right thing to move things forward, but not enough rope to hang themselves. And then we obviously have a great commission that gets along, that looks at the bigger picture, and moves things forward. Believe it or not, when you get over these bridges, there's a whole nother world out there, and it's, it's a challenge. And so what I'm seeing in my industry, it probably started with payroll. Remember when you used to have to work and you used to have whole payroll departments, right? Well, you start outsourcing that, and then it starts with the legal. There were probably times when whole municipalities had legal staff. So it gets, and so with technology, it's made that way. And so my goal is to replicate the Highland Beach financial model and how things are run across other municipalities that need it. Now, big organizations like the city of Boca or Delray Beach, they're huge, right? And they need that more. But with technology as it is, Zoom meetings, being local, I'm only 3 hours away. I'm not really leaving as some people would like, but but I'm able to help out more clients, and we probably have 3 to 4 clients that can use our help. And again, my discussion to them is, let me tell you how Highland Beach does it. And here's the amazing thing, and this actually came before I even got here. They remember when Highland Beach was a wreck. And I mean, I can't believe it, actually. But other municipalities that are close to here remember when. And they see this turn and they're like, what happened? And so it's really phenomenal. From when Marshall got here to the software that he initiated to use for your financial accounting and reporting, to the staff that he brought in. It's definitely something that other municipalities, whether wealthy or not, they can do better by having a better insight into where they're going, where they're at, and compliance. And, I've worked with the Joint Legislative Audit Committee in helping other clients get behind on their audits. So municipalities, there are a lot of similarities, right? There really are. little bit of differences here and there. And so and so when my son graduated from college, this is my son Jacob, when he graduated from college at Florida State, I said, hey, listen, I need some help. I need some help balancing things out. And so, again, you have a great family here. And if it wasn't for a house that I just couldn't afford on this coast, I would never be leaving. And I'm not leaving, I'll be here as long as you have me. And again, there are just great things to move forward. This is just, we're going to change it. You're going to save a little bit of money because I'm not on your pension anymore, your health insurance and all that other jazz. But at the end of the day, I really enjoy what I do. And to help other clients get to where you're at today, that's the goal. And so if we can help other municipalities, just like the police department did, right? If we can assist them, then we make Florida and hopefully the United States great again. Sorry. See, I really shouldn't be. That was bad. So that could be a question. Again, a call, a Zoom, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Yes, madam. I'm sorry. No. Yes.
Personal growth
Yeah.
is wonderful. Congratulations.
Oh.
So he's coming.
Yeah, he's employee number 1. I've got employee number 2 and number 3. I have my other son, he works for Raymond James. And he likes to help me a little bit on the side. These kids today, right? They're quicker with technology. They know how to work. And really that's what it's coming to these days with financial accounting and reporting. It's the data. No. Let's get the data. Let's clean the data. How should it be? Where is it? And we live in such a great time where we can do that anywhere in the world.
So my questions are, if I assume is it the same amount of physical hours that you'll be devoting?
Yeah.
If you have other clients, how will that work out? Would that diminish your ability to maintain your wonderful services?
Right.
So give us a little more.
Sure.
insight.
No, absolutely. When you look at the average employee gets paid 2,080 hours, right? That's full-time equivalent, right? Well,
Sure.
when you take away holidays, vacation, whatever, it comes out to be about 1,800 hours or whatever, full-time work. And you'll know, especially anyone who's ever been in business for themselves, it's not 9 to 5. Right.
Right.
And so, bringing on my son who's been on with me, and my other son who's been on with me, spreading out those resources, right, to give the same, here's my goal, the same level of service, right, at a reduced rate. And so that's the idea. That really is, whether it's from the legal profession, that sometimes attorneys have to juggle a lot, but where accounting and financial reporting is different is that we can automate a lot of things, right? We can automate a lot of repetitive tasks where you don't necessarily need to be physically in an office. One of my other sons, he's a programming language for Python. And so we live in a phenomenal time. And so to be able to do that quickly and check it and make sure it's right is done a lot easier these days, as well as anywhere in the world. And so, but again, I'm not leaving Florida. I'm right down on the other side a little
Down
bit.
the road.
But at the end of the day, I told Marshall, listen, whenever you need me here, I'll be here for public meetings that I need to be presentation. I'll be here. I'll be your finance director if you'll have me. And so the goal really is to take what's here and bring it to those less fortunate municipalities that don't have that luxury and try to get them up to speed. But yes.
Well, then we won't be.
No.
No.
Right. We're just
Yeah.
exactly. That's perfect.
And saving.
Yeah. It's a win-win.
Yep.
Right. I mean, right. And that is the goal.
Yeah, Jacob, you got a great dad. One of the first times I met David, was he got a new software program and this guy was like a kid getting his first bicycle. You know, he was just dancing around. I said, this is the greatest employee that you have.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is a family here.
Yes.
And we'll get a reduction in price. That's even better. And thank you for your service and your continuing service. Thank you.
Yep, no, happy.
When I first read this, I thought, oh, no, you can't leave.
No.
Because you are by far the best financial director that we have had since I've been involved in this town, bar none. I mean, it's head and shoulders above. It's just completely different. And we do appreciate that you got us on track.
Yeah.
And you're right, once you get the program set up, it's a lot easier because you plug the numbers in where they go.
Yep.
And you know what, if you can save other towns, because you're right, this town was a mess.
Yeah.
And now we made it great, Marshall. But it goes back to what we have been saying. We want to hire and retain the best because that's what makes us the best.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
So thank you. And we continue to look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I concur with all those comments. I think you're doing a terrific job here. I just have one financial question for you. On the write-up, it gives the current cost and benefits and our base price and an annual savings
Yes.
of $100,000, $105,000.
Yeah.
Then there's a list of specific other costs that could be incurred.
Right.
Are you looking at this 105 as a net savings, or will there be other costs that will impact that 105?
I'm looking at it as a net savings, because, you know, when, in my field, right, in my field, it's different than the police department. It's different than the fire department, right? They got to be in, on location, right? But in my field, I can do the work anywhere, right? And so when you're talking about the cost of a pension, right? When you're talking about the cost of insurance, right? When you're talking about the cost of vacation, when you're talking about the cost of me retaining my CPA license, right? All this cost right now is borne on the town. I'm willing to take that on. Now, how can I do it? Well, I can spread that cost over many clients, obviously, right? And I can also spread that time over employees. You know, I get over my 3 employees right now, 1. But at the end of the day, to me, it's more than that. To me, it's I get to teach my son how to do things right, what's expected, right? I get to teach him how to fish than to catch him a fish. And you know what? To me, that's you know, that's a great thing. You know, and again, you know, I'm blessed, and so yeah. So to me, to be net, that's why I took the hourly rate for anything else that you need to be $100 an hour. Well, I mean, I know other companies, their administrative assistants would cost you $100 an hour. You know what I mean? And so to me, I looked at it and I said, you know what? If you want me something to do, Marshall he'll negotiate it down. Trust me. And I just figured that, you know, I'm not going to not do it. So, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I think if it were anyone else, I might have a hard time with it. But because we've been able to basically interview you, or I don't know how we've had experience with you for so many years, I am very comfortable with the situation. Yeah, I mean, the cost of living over here is very high, and I can definitely understand your motivations. And yeah, and from working with you over the last few years, the value that you bring is implementing these high level ideas, whether you know, putting things in graphics to help us understand it better, using that BI tool, just the 5-year, the idea of the concept of the 5-year forecast. And now staff here can just move forward
Yep.
and plug and chug,
Yep.
with these ideas that you've implemented. The other benefit I see to this arrangement is, and I understand you have already been kind of doing it on the side, but you working with other municipalities is going to benefit us because as you see other pitfalls that other municipalities encounter, you're going to bring that value to Highland Beach. So it's a benefit, in my opinion, both ways. You're going to see what has worked and you're going to help other municipalities. You're also going to be able to look ahead to see what are some potential pitfalls that we can avoid.
Yep.
I think you'll also find, some other things that, which are hard to foresee at this point in time that are, just, you're going to learn cool little things, even from a less sophisticated municipality. You're going to learn little things that they've done that are going to benefit us.
Yeah.
So I have no doubt that you will continue to bring great ideas to Highland Beach and that we will benefit from that. So I completely trust you and what your plans are. I have good faith in you and you have established with me a level of trust. So, that is really the main reason why I am comfortable with this. I don't know that if, some random person came up off the street and asked to be our finance director, that I would be comfortable doing that. But with
Okay.
you, I most certainly am. And congratulations to the new family business. I think that's really cool. I wish you all, good luck. And but you're going to be here, right?
That's what.
Budget season,
Budget
you're gonna,
season.
so like, for us on the dais,
I'm
it's
still
not
here.
really much different for us.
No, right.
It's just from our
Perspective, it won't
perspective,
change.
yeah, it'll be the
Won't change
same.
much. You can still call them if you have a
Right.
burning question. They'll still be with the rate structures,
Yep.
the 5-year forecast, the budget process.
Yep.
The difference will be more internalized for us on the day-to-day, and that's where Susie's going to step up.
Yep.
We're all praying that she's going to pass that last section of CPA. So we're thinking of her too. And she'll take up the more day-to-day operational elements. So I think it'll be, I don't want to say bumpy at first, but it'll be a little bit of a trial and error on how we settle into the day-to-day. But the big picture, the big tasks, we can preserve the separation of duties, which is critical to maintaining a good, clean audit is, it's just not Susie doing every single thing. We still have a little bit of that separation. And the two of them are a pretty good 1-2 punch with the big picture and the day-to-day. So I think we're in a really good shape.
Yeah.
A few things will wash back into the manager's office, but that's no big deal. Works out well, save a few bucks. We're in a good shape.
And we get to give staff here other opportunities. So I think that's a benefit as
I-
well.
Couldn't agree more.
So, in conclusion, as long as Marshall's comfortable with it
Yeah.
and the rest of the staff is comfortable with it, and everybody else seems to be
Well,
comfortable with it, I am comfortable with it. So
It's
if
all
we
right.
could have.
Slope. I mean, boy, that name, I don't know about your name, man. You gotta change that.
Well, the other one was already taken. What is it? The Inspire? That was.
Nice.
Thank you.
Going to.
So, again, Marshall and staff have been nothing but cordial, December 2nd, that just seemed like a good cutoff time. But again, my two of my 3 kids still live here, right? And so we'll have an office here. I call it an office. It's the rental here, we'll have it here and we have the new house on the other coast. And so they'll be here. That way I have a place to stay, right. And so, but
We have to see you.
yes, yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yes, oh, you have
I
to
can't-
come
I can't miss
sit,
that part.
right.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
I would say, I would suggest a separate communication to the FAB.
Sure.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Motion.
I move that we approve the professional service agreement between Projected Point Inc. and the town of Highland Beach.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want a roll call for this since it's finance
Sure.
director? I don't know.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, moving on to item C, consideration of an assigned vehicle program for the police department and authorize the town manager to execute all agreements related to direct cash purchase with maintenance management program from Enterprise Fleet Management option and authorize the necessary budget amendments.
Good afternoon again. The assigned vehicle program is in front of you. I know you have the information. But do just give you a summary, a brief on what it is, how it works, and what the benefit is to the town. No. There you go. The assigned vehicle program, summary of a benefit of what it is to the town, the police department, the officer, and why we're here, and then certainly answer any questions you may have. So what is assigned vehicle program? Kind of exactly what the name insinuates. Every officer would get their own assigned vehicle. That would be that officer's vehicle that they use every time they come to work. They take it with them when they leave. They go home with it. They use it to commute back and forth to work. It's assigned to that individual officer. They're the sole person that drives it. They're the sole person that is responsible for the care, condition control, and the maintenance of that vehicle. Currently, that's not what we have as a police department. We have a small group of pool vehicles that the officers drive. Those vehicles at times are driven multiple days in a row, at times back to back. It's a small fleet that we keep as pool vehicles. The assigned vehicle program initiative is really the industry standard. The majority of law enforcement in this state, certainly in this county, all have vehicles that are assigned to each officers. It's theirs. They're the only ones that drive it. Only a very small number of agencies work off of a pool fleet. And we know that in this county, even those agencies now are looking at doing to exactly what we're bringing forward in front of you today, because it's the industry standard. And why is that? If you think about what the officer does, they're in shift. They're 12 hours in their vehicle. Their vehicle is their office for 12 hours. They spend all that time in there. They're in the field. They have all their own personal gear that they have to bring in, all the gear that we supply them. They're in and out of that vehicle all day. They have to load it at the beginning, unload it at the end, inspection components that go with that. And we're here now today because of what we went through in the last year. We know that as an industry standard, we're not meeting that industry standard without assigned vehicles, right? And as we went through the hiring process, we saw we're all competing for the same pool of applicants. Let's face it. We're surrounded by some really premier agencies, some really salary and benefits that are a challenge to keep up with. And certainly a vehicle as the industry standard is something that we're missing in that piece. And we see that. That's one of the first questions that guests get asked when we're in these interview processes. So not meeting them, that industry standard, at least having that, we're at a disadvantage, right? Certainly takes us out of a conversation as a preferred employer when we don't have the simple piece like that in there that these other agencies have. And a real benefit then of the assigned vehicle is that we know that these vehicles last longer, right? They're not driven around the clock. They're not hot seated. The time in the field is reduced. The salt air that sits in these vehicles 24/7 because they stay here. And very importantly, what wears down a car is idle time, right? We know that. What happens when we work here? A lot of that time is visibility, a lot of idle time. That's reduced. That's not done multiple times. It's only done while that officer is working. And that research shows us that when one person is in charge of a vehicle, it lasts longer and it's better maintained, right? They're the only ones that drive that and they take better care of it. That's why so many people have it. And then importantly, for us, it's certainly an operational asset, right? We know we can't have enough vehicles when we go through these type of emergency situations, deployments. For those of you that have been here a while, remember that we went through that period also where we do the same thing as what you saw at Treasure Island and the West Coast just go through. All these officers come in before a storm even hits. So every officer in the department is here. They're either bunking or they're working, right? We don't have enough vehicles. We man both ends of towns. We have power outages. We had curfews. We had checkpoints. Certainly a challenge when you have a limited number of cars and you're dealing with pool cars. Like anything else, we would draft a policy. We already drafted policy, but we know what kind of policy we would have that would dictate the accountability and the controls that are in place to have a take-home vehicle, an assigned vehicle for each officer, right? We're an accredited agency. Everything that we do meets the standards of the state. Under each one of those policies, protocols, operating procedures that we have conditions and standards that we have to meet for each one of those. So we know we have those controls in place to make this a viable option and easily to transfer into. To start the program for us, it would require the acquisition of 11 new vehicles into the fleet. And what we did as we researched it, we consulted with Enterprise Leasing and Greg Ionelli, who's the senior account executive for South Florida for Enterprise Leasing, subject matter expert in that. And really, they've kind of become the industry standard, right? Municipalities are now using them to acquire their vehicles and manage their fleet. Locally, really was a great asset in understanding, getting our arms around it for us. And the town manager, David Delina, both sat, they took a deep dive. I'll let them work through the finance part of this and how we came to understand the best way to do this. But I want to be able to answer any questions you may have for us operationally. And remember, just what I said earlier, this is the industry standard. We're not asking for anything different than the other municipalities are doing, right? We're not being innovative, or most places have had this in place for decades. There's a reason why. And there's a reason why the few of them that don't do it is because of the cost. So there is an initial cost, right? Once you can get through that sticker shock, and I think that's what they understood and understand the value to this, it certainly is an asset to your municipality and our department. And we hope that we see that, and we see the lifespan of these vehicles increase and the care and maintenance of them. We think it has a lot of value. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have as why we're doing this, and I'll let the town manager then work through what they looked at as costing.
Once this is, I realize I didn't have my recording on before. Once this is implemented, what will happen to the pooled cars?
So we only have a small amount of pool cars. Some of them may be in the process of being assigned to individual officers. We will always need a few extra cars as we see cars go down, maintenance, some things happen, accidents, things happen that you can't control. So we would always need vehicles to make sure that when the officers were here, they had our cars to drive. Not necessarily be able to take home, but at least we know we have cars that we can deploy when they're here. So it's a very small number, and they will be part of this assigned.
So with our scarce parking capabilities here, it won't be affected, because that'll be their vehicle to take home and go back and forth.
Correct. And those vehicles won't be here when they're not in use, when the
Right.
officer's not here. So just the number of vehicles, the officers on duty, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have with regard to the operations.
Question.
Is there any way that we can split maybe by the 11 initially, and then like maybe the most miles, so we don't get hit with a budget when it happens again? So we could do half the market one year, then next year maybe do the other half? Is there any considerations?
Yes, there absolutely is. That's some of the dialogue that we've already had. How do we get these vehicles into the fleet, keep those miles regulated? That's what some of the fleet management of what Enterprise does, as they look at your fleet, understanding the cost you have into it, the ongoing cost, the value of your car at that time, what trade-ins are apply. So there's a lot of value to that. There's a lot of reasons why, and Greg can tell you, whole municipalities, much bigger municipalities than us, go to their management of their fleet. Everything in their fleet, their public works, not just their police vehicles, certainly the whole municipality. So there's constant analysis of that, of the vehicles, the miles, and trade in, and when you would keep them, when you would move them out. Sure.
Question. We just saved $100,000.
Yeah, David contributed to the program. He was very conscious of it. The David Delina Love Fest.
These vehicles, these vehicles, are they gas, hybrid, electric? What are the vehicles we're talking about?
Yes, the same hybrid Explorers that we're using right now. We found them to be very effective for patrol environments for us. When you're under that 30-mile-an-hour patrolling, we're in that electric motor lock. We find that we're saving the gas on the vehicle. It's quiet as they're able to get through some parking lots and the back streets when they're, especially at night. So yeah, we're looking at staying in the same efficient vehicles, Explorer hybrids.
And I know for a fact the chief is right. If this is a benefit and if we don't offer, I think it's 88%. I don't know if the statistics are still that police departments in the state of Florida are doing this. I know as a fact, when I was on the police force, if some of the municipality has a better benefit, they go there and we don't want to lose our guys. So this is very important to keep them and to bring new people in. So you got the top level always coming in.
It is a big added piece to
Yes.
our recruitment and our retention. You know, we know that these officers can find, we know of a municipality, same demographic as us, that offers us this program for them. And their officers are at a $16,000 difference at their top pay than our officers are. So where are they going to apply? Our standards don't change.
Mhm.
We have the same standards as everybody else. We don't lower our standards here. The most important thing, you've heard me say this before, that we do, and the most difficult thing we do is finding a good qualified people that can get in this community and give them the same level of service that you get anywhere. So agree.
From what I can see, this is a win-win all the way around. Among other things, what we have been trying to do over the last 4 or 5 years is bring in the best. And if you are not up to industry standard, you're not going to be a preferred employer. It saves on wear and tear on the cars. The cars are taken care of better. In an emergency, we have more cars available. And yes, you have to have a few in case of cars in a pool. But we don't want to hire police officers, train them, and then have them go someplace else. That's dollars wasted. You want to train them, you want to keep them. And yeah, we can use David's $100,000. But I think this is a terrific idea. And one of the big reasons is we live in a very expensive area. And police officers can't afford to live near here. So they don't want to put the wear and tear on their own cars. And I get that. And this works out well for everybody. And I'm sure that there are ways to figure out mileage, and we're not the first ones to do this. It's being done all over the place. And it was the same principle that when we started the fire department, we went 24 on, 72 off, because that's what the standard had become. You don't want to start behind. We offer different kinds of benefits, being a small, low-key town, but you still have to keep up with the big boys. Even if not the absolute salary with the big boys, we have to keep up with the benefits with the big boys.
Right.
Or it doesn't work for anybody. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you've met with each one of us and given us a lot of information to discuss. And that also gave me some time to talk to some residents to gauge, their interest. And I have only encountered, people who are in support of this. And then we also have this letter from the Police and Fire Foundation. Thank you very much for sending that. And one discussion in particular that I had with a resident, he could see right away that it is a cost savings ultimately will be a cost savings to Highland Beach. I also, it's an investment in our police department, which I am fully supportive of. And I think the one thing one of the key pieces that made a lot of sense to me is when we do have an emergency that everyone will have a vehicle. And I think that is a really huge benefit to the residents of Highland Beach. And then I guess the extra ones, a lot of times you post out, you have them parked strategically throughout town to make it look like an even improved presence of.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess I shouldn't say that publicly. Sorry. Oops. Erase that from the video, but no, I think you are really think of some really clever ideas for the force. So yes, I you know, and I also like the idea of, I know when I worked in corporate, I had my own office, so that makes a lot of sense to me too. You know, you have your own office and it makes you, you know, I remember, you know, you're just very productive in your own office, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So I also am in support. So sounds like everyone we've, any more discussion? No.
Well,
Well,
unless
as
we
far as the numbers.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Nope,
I'd
we
like to
can-
go over that.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So transitioning from the policy side and just to lend a little bit more to Chief Hartman's opening, this is a statewide issue. I do sit on the Florida League of Cities Policy Committee for municipal operations. The number one issue is recruitment and retention of police and firefighters in the state of Florida. We're doing any and everything we can. Now, we're not as have as many challenges as the more rural communities of Northern Florida and Central Florida, but everybody recognizes it from South Florida to Northern Florida that this is an issue we're going to be struggling with, that, especially in South Florida with our cost of living items. So Chief Hartman said he needed this. We talked to you. You guys seemed relatively on the same page of makes some sense. How are we going to pay for this, right? And what is Enterprise doing? So Chief Hartman brought Enterprise here. I was a little bit skeptical. So thank you, Greg, for changing my mind as to what the program, because we could just buy off the sheriff's patrol and buy car. No, we can't. So when you start a program of this size and scope, for us, we usually do onesie, twosie purchases, and we may have to buy from Jacksonville, Pensacola, Bartow. We have to go around the state and we might get a vehicle here, wait 12 more months, get another vehicle here. Then once we procure the vehicles, you know, 1-2 vehicles, they come here. Then we get 2 officers that are on duty, or we might have to bring somebody in on overtime, take these vehicles down to Dana Supply and start getting all the outfitting. So these aren't regular vehicles that you and I would purchase from a dealership. They basically come as a shell. Then we got to put in the boxes behind there for when you retain somebody. You've got to put on the lights, the gun racks, the storage boxes, the onboard computer systems, the cameras, all that stuff, all the what we call, and you see in the analysis, and Dave will present all of it, is the upfitting cost. But in order to start, we need 11. There was logistically a difficult thing for us when Enterprise does this across the country, and their buying pool is the entire country, and they're the largest fleet manager in the United States. So things that we, when I was talking with Chief Hartman, I wait for him to go on vacation. Then I talked to Eric Aronowitz, who usually does the procurement, does all our purchasing. He's kind of our quartermaster. How do we get this? He's like, I don't know how we're going to get that many vehicles. It'll take us 3 to 4 years to get that many vehicles in. So it kind of lent itself that, okay, Enterprise has a lot of great things where they can get us the whole thing. He said, I think I don't want to take your word. Said a couple of weeks, we could probably procure the shells, all the base vehicles that we needed. That's quick. Then they go through the process of outfitting, coordinating logistics, storage. Because if we got 11 vehicles just sitting here, what are we going to do? Watch them rot in the salt. So they handle all those things. So that's why we moved to that Sourcewell program offered through Enterprise. It's nationally, any municipality can use it. A lot of it is logistics, being able to procure the vehicles, get it to us. And we don't pay for them until they give them to us. Till we get the keys, they do all of this, and then we pay them for the vehicle. So that provided some cash flow assistance for us in that versus doing it ourselves. And then from a manager's perspective, I said, okay, now we got all these vehicles, inevitably not a full-time job, but we're going to have a lot of extra duties related to fleet. Who's going to manage the fleet, keep track of all the maintenance, know when to cycle out vehicles, when to do Commissioner Pierce, when do we move a higher mile vehicle out? When is the opportune time in the market to move that vehicle out, get a new vehicle in? That is what Fleet Enterprise does for us, is does all that part. So that's why we went with Enterprise. So then we got to that stage of the conversation and we said, okay, we need 11 vehicles. How much does it cost? There's a zero cash option that David will walk through for you with Enterprise. But they have an interest rate. So at the beginning of our conversations that we individually had, we discussed, well, what kind of financing options? So the first time I got it and Greg called me and said it's 8%. I was like, wow, no way. You know how cheap I am. No way am I spending 8%. It's not the market rate. I had David call our friends over at Synovus. They came up with 5%. Then we went through this analysis. It shook out to about 30 grand difference between the two finance model, but then you add in logistics, it's a wash, if not even better, just to pay the higher interest rate when you think of all the extra services. Then we kind of ran into the SRF issue. And that's where the financial model changed, that now we're on the clock with ARPA and the federal government, as David has always told you guys, that we have to commit and spend these dollars in the next 12 months. And I told you SRF, we're not going to get to spending for about 18, if we're lucky, 18 months on a good side. So we have 461,000 and some change. So we said, let's look at a cash option. We don't want to pay that interest expense over time. We try to avoid that to the greatest extent possible. We took that and said, okay, we'll take the ARPA dollars. We'll apply that. We budgeted for Chief Hartman already a couple $100,000 for vehicles. That left us about 214,000 we had to come up with. Now, take on top of that, we got through our first, Susie got through the first trial balances. We're going to shake down close to $1 million out of last year's budget. So the complications Dave and I wrangled through, mostly David, to look at the financing side of it. Why don't we just pay cash? Just pay cash. And it's really only $200,000 out of what you were going to put in the bank account from last year into what it is. So we simplified it all down to a cash purchase. And if you will, kind of the proverbial rip the Band-Aid off, start the program. If you want it, this is the quickest, easiest, lowest cost way to do it. It comes with a little bit of sticker shock, $820,000 to make that initial investment. But like we said, we have these federal dollars we have to use. It qualifies under ARPA. Apply those dollars. That's 50% of the cost. We already had 200,000 in, so it's just a little bit of a tweaking, and we can make it happen. So that's where David went through his financial side of it, but that kind of is where we landed and why, and kind of the story of the enterprise and logistics, which we found, and from a management perspective, is really helpful in making this transition to the program.
Yes, worked on it over probably 3 weeks, looking at different variables. We're in a different time. I actually witnessed where we bought a car, traded it in a year later for a newer car, and got more money for the used car. And so that's just what's happening. And so when you think about, wow, do we have the staff? Do we have the logistics to keep abreast of what the market is doing? And when is the right time to trade in said police vehicle? No, we don't, right? But that's what Enterprise does. So right away, Marshall and I looked at, wow, this is a real benefit for $15,000 and change a year, that they monitor the mileage, the year, the make, the model. They have clients all over the US, if not the world, that may want our car to then sell it over to them. The logistics of upfitting, that was a whole, and then not that though, but we even looked at, do we want to do half now, half later? We were also looking at the fact that cars have gone up 15% per year. And we were like, we have the ARPA dollars, we have a surplus. Right now, if we want to start this program, right now is the time to do it. And so, yeah, so we looked at the increase, and that's what that budget amendment is for. We accounted for the increase in insurance, the increase in gas, the increase in maintenance that we're still responsible for. You know what I mean? Tires, windshield wiper blades. So we looked at all that, and that's what that budget amendment does. But but yeah, so we looked at it with the help of Enterprise. They weren't pushy. They were not a pushy, here's the program. The Sourcewell is just as competent as the Florida Sheriff's contract as far as costs go. Their upfitting costs, I looked back to see how much we spent in the past for upfitting costs, was very, very comparable. But you know, when you throw in the fact that we have to have 2 officers drive down to drop off a car,
Right.
you look at it and you go, guys, we're defeating the purpose of being efficient. And so we found a partner through Enterprise, not the only client that actually uses it. A lot of other municipalities do use it. And so that was the benefit. So we've adjusted our FY 25 budget once approved to account for insurance, additional maintenance, additional gas, just all these additional costs. And the goal was, listen, we make a healthy rate of return on interest in the bank right now. There's no sense of paying 8% interest. Sure, our bank will give us a 5% loan, which was great. Let's not muddy the water with interest. Let's just pay it.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as we have the money to do it, it makes absolute sense. There is no benefit in spreading the cost and spending more money.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, over the years, every time we need to re-outfit a car, things get improved. So by the time you're going to turn this car in, the new equipment to put in it will be better.
Or design of a car, right? Ford comes out with maybe designing the new Explorer a little bit differently. Now all of our stuff doesn't fit in there. And so they kind of.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we do like to do is keep our police cars up to date with the best, newest equipment. And this way, you're right, selling those cars afterwards with all that equipment in it, taking out our personal things, but with all that equipment has a value. So I think, I don't think there's really any logical choice not to pay it up front. We've got the money.
Yeah, I agree. I want to avoid the interest expense. I always am in favor of avoiding interest expense. And I think the budgeted transition to reserves was only $500,000, right? So now we're getting 900, so, or close to $1 million.
Right.
So
right.
we're transitioning more to reserves than we originally expected when we budgeted.
Right.
So we have the cash and it doesn't take away from anything else. I think it makes a lot of sense to use the ARPA dollars.
Yeah.
We have to use it or lose it.
And what we'll do, just like we did with the fire department, again, the Highland Beach model is, you know what, we'll start to budget for an estimated pushback to reserves, right? Push more money back into for the fire department and the trucks, you know, just like the Father's Prayer. You know, not only are we looking out for this generation's efficiency in local government, but also in our future, right? And so we'll make sure that we ensure that by budgeting for future car replacements when we come down, right? Because we know the data, we have the data, estimate of what it'll use.
Totally.
I think this takes advantage, gives us, we're exercising a wonderful opportunity here. Since we have we have the surplus, our investments are probably going through the roof. So we may have more anticipated interest income than we anticipated.
Yep.
So it all looks good.
Yeah, that's.
Good.
Okay.
Good. I move we authorize the town manager to execute all the necessary agreements to purchase these vehicles.
Second it.
The budget amendment, yeah.
And including the budget amendment.
Yeah, second it.
Roll call. Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern.
Yes.
And Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mayor Commissioners, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
E-
Thank you.
Everybody
Thank you,
sees
Chief.
what you do here for our
Thank you.
public safety.
Okay.
Priority is pleasure to work with these guys. You see how they work through stuff and get stuff done. So big thank you to both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, moving on to our fiscal year 2024-2025 strategic priorities plan update and review.
So I went through, updated it to the greatest extent I could recall and added projects that have commenced. I mean, one of them is unranked and you just finished it. So I'll have to update this again. But again, you have the strategic priorities plan, which includes completed tasks, where they were ranked. And then I've also created a list of unranked, whereby over the next several meetings, or today, I guess, if you're that prepared, to start looking at how do we want to re-rank programs, move things forward, move things back. So this is our annual adjustment and ranking of projects. I think there's one project that I did miss that I'll talk to you about in the manager's update, but you know, it's a relatively small project, but very strategic. So it's just a matter of how do you want to process through these, change any of the language. Are there projects I haven't missed that you are envisioning we should be addressing and working on? And we will get to those. And then for simplicity, if you take out all of the extra, report language, you go to the back, there is just a project list, kind of gets you out of having to go through the sectional descriptions that are in there. Like
Yeah, I
organizational
guess I thought we
excellence.
would start on page 70. I think that's where the list kind of start, like you, at the beginning, or at one point you organize them all by departments and then you.
Yeah, categories of
repeat-
projects. That's
Right.
just- yeah.
But then you repeat the list just in a list form.
Yeah, that's what
So,
usually
I
it's
like
easier
that.
to work off
I
the list
like
because
that.
you could say this project, where do we want to go? I've tried to do my best to update those again. Sometimes those projects are dynamic, so they do tweak a little bit between each time we talk about them, and I will, we'll sit down and go through those. Now, what supplements this, Sergio, is our capital improvement plan, which we will bring in the next time we meet. You'll see the updated CIP list for all of our capital projects. So we could see, because that is a strategic, is taking care of all of our infrastructures, but to describe every single project might be challenging. So the idea was to amend the priorities plan with our CIP. So you could see the bigger projects from pumps, tanks, all the stuff with the water plant, buildings, roofs, bridges, stuff like that. So you can get those tied into it as well.
Well, one thought I had was maybe we should discuss what we thought were the highest priorities, perhaps, and if anything comes to mind on maybe a project that might be missing. So I don't know if anyone wants to start with who, which project they think are of the highest priorities. Because normally what we like to do is, we have this whole list of projects and we like to give Marshall the direction. Okay, if there's a bunch of stuff on his desk, what is it that we think is most important for him to work on? And then we kind of prioritize through there. If that's how you guys want, that's how I recommend we start, because there's a lot of projects here. And this could take us a long time.
When a number of them we see are either referred to planning,
Yes.
or natural resource advisory. So as we go through them, there
Yes.
may be a number of them to get off the list, priority wise, right?
That should be ranked lower than they currently are. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
Yeah.
So I think we should discuss which ones are the highest ones.
Okay.
Which ones we think are the highest priority. But yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner Goldberg. Like a lot of them, I struggled because a lot of them are high priority, but we've made a lot of progress on them.
Yep.
So, they're important, but
Yeah, but
they're almost
anything we're
complete.
already, we're already working on it,
That's
we don't
right.
have to worry about it. It's not going to fall by the
Right.
side.
It's
I
almost
think-
it's not a strategic thing
Right,
because
it's
it's
just-
already been worked on.
Yeah, I think we need to come up with what we want to do that we aren't doing.
Right. That's important because there's
That's
some
important.
things
Yeah.
that we aren't doing but I think they're low priority. So what are the
I
things that we
agree.
really haven't made much progress on that we should,
Yeah.
yes,
And there's
Yes.
no number one on this list.
because we completed it. Number one was
Fire
the
safety in
fire.
the fire department is,
Right.
operational and doing quite well, right,
That's-
chief?
So he
See?
just took the
Boom.
same priorities that we
Okay.
had.
Yeah.
And whatever was completed was moved off the list. And
Got
what
it.
remains are things that are not.
Yeah, so they're currently will have
Completed.
a missing one or an 8 or something like
Right.
that because we've completed and they've gone to the completed
Got it.
list. But we do have a few things, kind of talking with the CIP issue because the sanitary sewer lining project now is going to be a little bit more labor intensive. It comes off of a simplistic list and becomes a priority because we have to get state funding,
Right.
walk through the state program. We have to do some environmental clearance work. So it becomes more of a strategic priority, but it's unranked. How important is that?
Yeah, like I think that one's is really high. I think that's one of our, if he had all these things on his desk, which one do you want him to pay attention to? Because that's our infrastructure. If something happens to, we need it. We keep getting delays. I
Yeah.
feel like,
Right. Yeah, but,
um,
and there are a lot of hoops to jump
Yes.
through on
Yeah.
that one.
yeah.
So we need to get those hoops completed
Mhm.
so that we are shovel ready.
Right.
Even though it's not going to actually
Start for a while.
start for a while, we need to get all that paperwork done, and that's going to be a bear.
And some of the other guidance I would need is taking a project like zoning density review, right?
Yeah.
It's starting to grow and more energy in the community with problems and projects. I have some simplistic solutions to it. May not fly, may be the great idea. Should we move that from that 16 type category up a few, kind of showing that it is rising to the top of an issue we need to work on? Or no, that's fine the way it is. Just leave it where it is. And then I'll take that into consideration as we move forward with projects that it, maybe it doesn't rise to the list, more attention to something else.
Well,
Yeah, I guess I look
well,
at that.
actually, actually, in that one that you just used as an illustration,
Mhm.
with the zoning density, as your notes reflect, that's on 72, SP 16, that it's been referred, it's actually been paused
Mhm.
because of Milani. So that can go back.
So
I also think it's a low priority.
I think it's a low
I mean,
priority.
you think it's a low priority? Is that
I
what-
do.
I do.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I-
because we don't have any major developments
Right.
that are
Mhm.
in the works at this point that we know about. And yeah, I would wait on that one.
Yeah, and builders just need to comply with what our current zoning
Mhm.
rules are. I personally don't see a reason to change it
Yeah,
at this point in time.
I think that, you want me to make a stab at it? Okay.
Sure.
So what pops up at me, I think that should be given, it's not ranked now, the new project, for the police marine docking access facility. I think that's important. We have here, you say the police department has secured the grant, 50% cost share. So I think that that would be a priority. I think the infrastructure as far as what we're doing, and this is moving architecturally and what we're going to do to the old firehouse. Because that would also feed into communications, further communications with the town,
Mhm.
what we're going to do out there. Give us the ability to communicate more, enliven our growing population. The electric vehicle protocol, I'm getting a lot of feedback, a lot of questions
Mhm.
out there in the community. What are we doing with the EV protocols? And even of late, I know it's something that we don't have much direct decision-making, but the Intracoastal Waterway, more and more people are complaining. And we know that, and you do refer to that and give a very good explanation. You say the police department will collect the data and information that can be utilized later. So I would like to have that, I think, as it doesn't have to be right up there, but something that we don't forget about, that we're pushing, we're keeping the records. We periodically bring it before the commission, so we don't lose sight of that. I mean, that has direct impact on our seawalls.
Mhm.
You know, the wakes.
Mhm.
And if there's anything that we can do towards that end, I think that would be very appreciated by the community. And as far as the structural improvements, you also have the old post office.
Mhm.
So that's something, is that your intent to put that together?
Yeah, that's something Chief Hartman and I are working on. We're working through it slowly, but we're chipping away at it, and trying to figure out how to best use that space to address some of our security needs. So, but it's unranked, so that's the thing, like where does that go? So, that's, you know, or you're like, no, just leave it the way it is, then I would probably just take the project off. So I think that as you guys go through your discussions, you know, I'm taking notes like this one goes up a little bit higher, which would naturally push this down, and I'll come up with a curated list at the end of the discussion. But if there's projects like that are just like bottom of your list, like,
Well,
we're not like bottom, like it's not important, but of all the things we're working on, don't focus too much time on
yeah,
that.
I have something that I think is for the future, but this is an old building. And we have to start thinking about what repairs and upgrades this building itself is going to need. We live in a saltwater environment and it eats away at everything. And we were redoing all of our apartment buildings in town. Well, this building may need some work as well. Now, I wouldn't put that high on the list. I would put that lower on the list towards the bottom, but I just think it's something that we have to start thinking about, just kind of a glimmer. And I would, as far as the post office, I don't think it's worth our while to let that sit there. I think we need to come up with a plan to use it. We don't have that much space available, and that's a space we can utilize. And I think we should.
Because if even though we don't have to do it right now, I think that if we look at funding, if we're going to need funding, we're limited in what we can use every year. So if it's in our future that 2 years down the line we'll need a referendum, this is the time to start saying, okay, they hit that wall, what do we have to do to get there? Oh, it's off. I'm sorry. Did anyone hear that? Do I have to-
No, I agree. I think police docking should be moved up there. We're getting a grant. I don't know how long the grant we have for it, so that we might have to
That was for
have
plan.
time wise.
So that's the planning part of it.
Right.
As I've been told by Chief Hartman, that once you're in that queue, they'll also be available to help us with construction. And I'm just hoping to piggyback the fine grant. Since Representative Gossett Seidman is in office still, we might have some better chance to come up with a more focused appropriation to further assist. Because that's really right, because that's a regional facility a little bit. For all the units and police departments operate on the intercoastal, those become hubs, if you will, for public safety. So I'm thinking we might be able to attract at least some state dollars on top of that. Is kind of the way to kind of pull multiple sources of funds, because that project will be a little bit more expensive, I believe, than we kind of think it will be. So.
But we also want to use it as to give us the ability to take somebody injured off
Right.
of a boat.
So that's where the cost is. We
Because
get to have a lift on it too, so we could actually do a water.
there
safety
isn't any
rescue.
place
Mhm.
that you can do that at this point. And getting someone who's truly injured off of a boat is a very difficult proposition without injuring them more.
Mhm.
And I think that the towns around us would be happy if we had that too.
And it is, that's all the way through it. And we do have large regional events, so I think that's why it'll draw some state dollars, because Boca Bash and this and that. It'll be nice to have, you know, some places of safety and public safety response and rescue available on those type of big events or high use holidays when the waterways are really churned up. It'll be nice to have that available.
We
So,
try to be good neighbors.
yeah, right. We try. We're doing good.
We do it. Listen,
Definitely.
I think it was
Treasure Coast
absolutely
loves us.
fantastic that we sent people to help.
Mhm.
I mean, because that's what you do. We're in a state that gets hit with all kinds of drastic weather situations. And just because we were fortunate enough not to be hit, doesn't mean that you don't help. Because some point it's going to be our turn. And we would hope people would come to help us. So you pay it forward.
I was just gonna say the same thing, with 9/11, all the police departments in New York went down. People didn't even want, police officers didn't even want pay. They just went down on their own and volunteered. And jurisdictions are giving time off just to stay down and help. And that's, I'm glad we sent two over and the chief did. I was wondering about that. Thank you, chief.
I'm good with that.
Any,
no,
you agree with the priorities discussed so far? Yeah, so I think the sanitary, I don't know if we've discussed what is number one. Or I don't know that we even need a number one, maybe like a top.
Right, right.
top five. It seemed like,
Top grouping.
yeah,
like
it's,
the
I don't,
top
yeah.
5 or 6 projects, all kind of.
I don't know,
work
yeah, because it didn't, I don't feel like we have something like the fire rescue that's clearly a number one. For me, the number one is perhaps a sanitary sewer lining, just because like,
do
it's
it.
just, it's
Gotta get it
taking,
done.
You have to get it
it's
done.
Gotta get
really
it done.
aging, and I feel like I guess we were hopeful that
Gotta
maybe
get
it
it
could
done.
get done sooner, but like everything just, now we're like 18 months out, and so that one, I feel like we really need to get, that's a high priority for me. In my opinion, I think it could
8
potentially be our number one.
Sure,
if
18
everyone
months
agrees.
out sounds like a long time.
know, but-
But you're gonna turn around and it's gonna be 6 months
Yeah, we don't
out.
want any more
And you have
delays,
to have
yeah.
everything
Right,
done.
Squared away. Yes, yes. I agree, the old post office, there is no reason to have that empty. I know the chief in our discussions had discussed about repurposing it for the police department. I am in
I-
favor of that. I think that's a really perfect use of that space, and will have impact on our town, the safety of our town. So to me, that's also a very high priority.
And it makes better use of whatever parking we have available, rather
Definitely.
than having to walk around.
Right,
And
It
there's,
will be right there.
yeah.
and there's another aspect that I discussed with Chief Hartman. I realized one day that I wanted to go in, I don't know if it was after hours or over a weekend. I wanted to go down, taking a walk to talk to one of the personnel in the police department. I'm looking around. How do I get in the building?
Yeah, there's no
said,
obvious way.
My gosh, did I miss something? There's no access.
Right.
So use of the post office, the old post office is perfect.
Yes.
You have the parking access, it's prominent, yeah. And very
I think it
much
makes
needed.
A lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's a high priority to implement that. I agree with the marine docking. And it sounded like that was there's
It's
some
in the
progress
works.
there.
Mhm.
It's in the works, so that's good. I think are we calling the police assigned vehicle program completed? Or,
Just about.
yeah, so that's good.
Mr. Document,
So that's good.
review some?
I also think the old fire station, I think that moves up in priority. We had pushed it down in priority because we were so focused on the fire
Yeah.
rescue. So I think it's time to move that
Mhm.
up
I
again
agree.
to make use of,
Right.
space that we have. And it also helps us address the communication and community engagement. And I don't know that I really had any
And the
other
state
that
appropriations would go along with that, right?
Yeah.
Which is now
that I
5.
feel like when we
Five.
first put this on, we had not earned any state appropriations. It was like a new thing for us. And, when we got the first one, that was like, we didn't know exactly how to do it. We got the lobbyists. Now I almost feel like it's part of your
We're in the pipeline.
process.
Now-
Yeah, like now you
Yeah.
kind of know you're in the rhythm of it.
Mhm.
It's almost a part of your business now.
It's gonna get a little bit
And
more difficult as
is
well.
it?
I'm
Okay.
hearing, listen to the tracks. It sounds like they're not going to be entertaining as much. There's this new movement of more frugality with earmarks and stuff. So they're still going to be there. But I think the governor said he wants to start, bringing that down a bit. But like, that's why I said, like a public safety ask on the water in the state of Florida, those things go pretty well and will be well supported. Some of the other stuff I don't think will.
Yeah, but also you have a better chance of getting it if you're shovel ready. And if you're still in just the beginnings of a planning session,
Right.
you're less likely to get part of what small dollars are available.
Yeah, my point in bringing that up is before it was like we weren't even sure what was the best way to go about it. Now I feel like we know the
I
process.
just know that every year it becomes
It's-
part of our.
I don't know what's the right way to approach it,
Maybe I
but
could press the numbering.
Right.
because
Yeah.
It's become rudimentary or like you said, it's a task now that's.
exactly. It's more of a task as opposed to we're trying to figure out how to
Right.
even do it.
So
That's kind of-
remove it or just take it way down?
Well, I guess let's talk about that because there's a few things that fall into that category. Financial management systems. Is that something that still should be on
Well,
our?
as soon as I get that updated 5-year program. Huh? Hey, David? Now that you're a
It's like-
consultant, I expect it tomorrow.
Like- Isn't this?
He's got updated. We got to
It's
change
just-
the projections.
It's
Yeah.
just an update now at this point in time.
From when I first did it about 2 years ago, a lot's changed, right? Some major changes, right? Well, now we have a fire department, our own staff. We have the police with the vehicles. We're looking at a marine unit, right? We're looking at the financing, the sewer lining. Project. So, no, a 5-year forecast is very crucial for your normal everyday running of the government. And then what you look at is okay, where can we fit these projects in? Let me give you another example of the post office. 5 years ago, we didn't know,
Right.
3 years ago, we didn't know the post office wasn't going to be. So,
Right.
there are a lot of changes in there, but no, updated it is.
But I think the idea of the 5-year, that was when we put it on here. Now we expect a 5-year now every time we do budget. So now it's just an update.
Yeah, now we have a
Yeah.
consultant. We just say we need it. Hey. I don't have to worry about my schedule. No.
So town entry signs, that's pretty much complete. Can roll
They
off, right?
Delivered. We're just holding off because they're making a mess out there. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't
we
give
have,
it up now.
we've seen pictures secured, safe at the sign company. They're ready to be installed. We're just
Yeah.
letting them stop making messes a little bit. So-
Right.
So I guess I thought we could talk about Milani Park a little bit. So we previously had that as a very high priority. And one of the reasons we had it as a high priority, because I guess, we thought we were developing strategies to hopefully change the direction of Milani Park. And I think we put forth a lot of effort to try to do that. We hired a lobbyist to, try to talk to county officials. All of us went up to a county meeting and expressed how we felt. We had a resolution. I really feel like, and we still have an attorney that we have engaged. So we've expended a great effort trying to change the direction of Milani Park, which is why this was rated as the second highest priority. A good amount of time has gone by. I don't see the county changing direction on the park, unfortunately. And for a while, we've been kind of stiff-armed, not being able to participate in discussions, not really knowing how progress was being made, at the county level. And so many thanks to Maggie Chapelier and Laura Thurston. They have been in constant communication with Commissioner Woodward. There's been very open dialogue between them, and at Maggie and Laura's urging, I was invited to a meeting this past week, and It was a very positive meeting, a very stern message that county is continuing to move forward, and they are moving forward according to the settlement agreement. But there was most certainly a spirit of collaboration. While the discussion was that the county fully expects to follow all the conditions within the settlement agreement, they did say that there's still opportunity to incorporate preferences that Highland Beach has, which I very much appreciate that spirit of cooperation. And so we kind of, and it was also, this meeting was also an introduction of the architect that they had selected. And I must say, I am very impressed by the architect that they had selected. He has developed some very beautiful parks, in Florida, and has very much an expertise in developing coastal type parks and things like that. So he's an architect and a landscape architect, and with a focus on developing the coastal areas. So some things that we discussed, of course, our immediate reaction when they talked about the settlement agreement from the three of us was a request to reduce the number of parking spots. And then we also talked about other things that were a high priority for us, which was the traffic, the potential for excessive traffic. And they do intend to have the parking attendant and the attendant house. But one thing that was thrown out there that I thought was a good idea was there is no requirement that the attendant collect the parking upon entering the park. So because we talked about the concern of stacking on A1A and causing traffic delays and all that kind of stuff. And the county has listened to us, and they said, well, there's really no reason why the attendant has to collect the parking and cause delays on A1A. People can drive in and pay the parking at a kiosk or something like that. And I thought that showed that they were really listening to us and our concerns about, the stacking on A1A. We also talked about the concerns of vagrancies at the parks and at the park. And, they said their immediate reaction was that, that's not going to happen. But I guess the one thing I'll say is, we, amongst us, we had talked about whether or not, how important the attendant was or a lifeguard is. But I guess so they intend to do the lifeguard and the lifeguard stand. And I think having maybe 2 county employees at the park might help, perhaps reporting issues, or whatever. So I thought that was, perhaps a good thing. Stormwater drainage, they do have ideas for stormwater drainage that doesn't impact Boca Highlands at all. They do not intend to use neighboring parcels of land at all. They intend to retain it all within the property. We talked about the dangers regarding Yamato Rock, and again, that's when they talked about the lifeguard and the lifeguard stands, the environmental concerns, and the importance of protecting the sea turtles. We talked about that, and they definitely the architect has that within what he's working on. And then, of course, the aesthetics of the park. None of us want it to look like a basic parking lot. And so it sounds like to me, they are designing the park, with beauty in mind and landscaping it in a way that, the architect talked about species of landscaping that can help with like evaporation of the water, that there are some trees that help evaporate water better than others, and the way that they can design the park. So all those things between the three of us was very consistent. Those ideas were consistent. then there were some other ideas that the three of us had different perspectives. So for example, whether or not there should be any kind of like a children's playground, whether or not there should be any kind of a pavilion. The county administrator specifically said, well, that's not in the settlement agreement. And, we hear that, but, they were just listening, to the discussion among the three of us. So I guess my question to the group is, so there will be some potential for input. And I guess I would like to hear, I would like for us to get some sort of consensus on some of these ideas. Now, they tell me the next step, the next time the three of us will be looped in again is early next year. The architect will be working on some options. I imagine they're going to work directly with the county for a while and then present ideas. And then they want to go to the public again, to the Highland Beach residents again. They said February or March of next year. So I guess I was thinking like perhaps maybe the next meeting that we put on the agenda, maybe just talk about what are some preferences regarding a pavilion or not. Not that they're definitely going to do that.
Right.
They are committed. They will do everything that's in the settlement agreement. But perhaps we can like brainstorm about whether or not there's a consensus about a pavilion or not, whether there's a consensus about a children's specific area or not. And if there's any other ideas that you would want me to take back, I believe I have an opportunity in January to take back, when there are some concepts that are shared. I don't want it to be just from the three of us. I want it to be, I want to hear from,
Comment?
yes, go ahead.
Okay. For all of the reasons that you just mentioned, I believe it should remain high, very high priority because it's a moving target.
It is. Okay. Okay. That sounds
I
good.
agree with you in discussing those things.
Right.
Absolutely should.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if we could put that
I
on
agree.
the agenda for next time, just to
We'll keep it
just
high
update-
priority. I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep it high priority. So, okay, good. And so I also think the communication and community engagement, that also,
Should always be.
I think that is
Oh, right.
always
Should always be on top.
a high priority.
As well as the state appropriation.
I guess the only thing about
Oh,
that
sure,
is it's
food.
kind of,
Right.
it's kind of a business as usual thing in my
Because
opinion.
every year we're gonna make a request,
Right.
And
Okay.
I put forward our best. We kind of know
at
the
least for the next
motions
2
now.
years. Because they get
We-
elected every 2 years, you just never know when that door closes on us. So, we'll just keep,
I kind of feel like we know the process now.
we know the process. We have good inside players.
Right,
And we'll also talk about other issues, so.
right.
But communication and community engagement should also be ongoing. Because we're always trying to come up with new ways to get people involved.
No, right? You walked right into it. You guys talked before? You guys talked before the meeting.
We
Hannah.
promise we didn't. But, of course, my question is, I know that we cannot spend taxpayers' money to try and influence voting in any
Correct.
way. I want to know why the state can.
Mr. Rubin.
Because the state makes the rules. But yes, I totally agree with you. The state put a lot of money into certain
Things.
issues.
Well, to sway it one way or another doesn't mean yes or no, but just to sway it. And I found that a little disconcerting, to be honest, that they spent so much money to do that.
I think that might get addressed in the courts, I'm guessing.
Not by us.
No, we're not litigating that issue.
So marine accessory structures and dune restoration.
So that's
like-
still on there. I know
Yeah.
that the Natural Resource Advisory has really tied themselves to that issue, which is good. It's the appropriate group to
Right.
communicate and educate the public on that. So it's still a priority because it's still relatively new. They had the, what was that? The presentation and
Right.
discussion again last week, which we did get on YouTube, which we will create a link on the website
Thank you.
to make sure that that's there. So we did get that confirmed. Madison did find there's a live video of that. It's in the live section of YouTube, but we'll make a direct connection just so it's easier so you can watch from home. But again, they still want to do probably more and more communications. I think at the Mingle Jingle, they're going to be working on communicating those issues as well. So I mean, it's still pretty hot with them.
Okay.
It's a very big priority that we should be staying focused and communicating the importance of it.
So gas powered leaf blower regulations, we've had public comment about this. I think it's a low priority personally. I don't know what, I'm okay with leaving it on the list. And I know the Natural Preservation Board thinks it's a high priority. I mean, I
I
just,
tend to agree, and it's not something that I would jump in and say, okay, no more gas powered. It certainly is something that would need to be, if we should go that way, would need to be put in stages. And I would like to know what other places are doing.
Yep.
How are they handling it?
Juno Beach did outlaw them and it was supposed to go in effect October 1, but there's been such a backlash about the cost and because it is a cost item. And so that gets passed along to the residents. They've kind of delayed it another 6 months at this point. So to your point, phasing has to be very gradual because it is a big cost item. It does
Well,
have a
and
big.
the landscapers just don't have them.
not only that, it takes them longer.
It
They're
takes
not
them-
as strong. So
It takes
So
longer.
it-
and
so
they
you
can
need
be
new
charged.
equipment. It takes them longer.
Does.
It is a very costly item. I just don't, like, they can do my yard in 10 minutes with a gas powered, or how long is it going to take them with a battery
Right.
operated? I mean, it would take them so much longer.
And in the condos.
And the
Yeah.
batteries are,
And then the expensive
Got
battery.
charged about.
batteries are
The
expensive.
equipment, absolutely.
And
Now, are they outlawing gas powered trim hedges?
I don't think so.
All that stuff, because that's the same thing.
I know.
Hedge trimmers are gas powered.
And theirs was just the blowers because the blowers seem to be the most
Yeah, the blowers.
significant impact.
The
Noisy.
worst.
But that's the start.
Right, yeah, right.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a position on this, and I think it's got to be, but we need a lot more information.
Mhm.
I asked my manager, I just got the email, that's what I was looking at. I asked the manager to ask our supply, the person that does the condo lawns and so forth. Now, this reads a very short
Mhm.
response, okay? We wanted to provide an update regarding the use of electric versus glass blowers to our services. After evaluating the situation, we believe that we can achieve the same results with electric blowers as we currently do with the gas equipment. However, we do not recommend making the switch to electric equipment at this time as there is a loss of efficiency when making the change. Currently, we are servicing Highlands Place with gas blowers. The feasibility of transitioning to electric takes into account factors such as your preference of the client, the value you place on electric versus gas equipment, and the overall budget for the services. The price increase to Highlands Place switch to get glass blowers to electric blowers would be around 2 to 4%. Please let me know if you have any other questions. There are a lot of open questions. on this.
Wow. Interesting.
So for our purposes,
Hold.
Keep
I
it low.
say hold.
Keep it on there and keep it low.
Yeah,
and I
but
think
we need
perhaps
more
we could
information.
perhaps start a process of gathering the information. Do the research.
Or what you do is you charge the Natural Resource Advisory Board to
Yes.
gather all that
Well, we-
information from multiple sources versus just don't do it.
Right.
Yes.
Do the research to prove and how much is it going to cost? What are the
Mhm,
positives, the negatives, other communities? So,
mhm.
I'm good. with that.
so I'll bring that back as something maybe you guys could create a directive to the Natural Resource Advisory Board to look into that issue.
And then we have this temporary sign ordinance. I don't know. Still think. I don't
It
know.
hasn't been an issue. It was, I would say, several years ago, and it's twofold. One is the political campaigning signs, which seem to kind of fallen off for us. But again, the real estate signs, the big real estate signs going to just the more of the smaller signs that a lot of the other coastal community, I don't want to say a lot, but other coastal communities have considered doing, where you get the black and gold sign. It can only be 8.5 by 11. That's it. You get one sign instead of the big colorful for sale signs or the 4x4 posted signs. And that's kind of that more of the visual blight in the coastal community. Do you want it? We just haven't really jumped on that issue yet. But again, we also had it when we had more election stuff, and we still had it a little bit this cycle where we had to remind the candidates that, you know, only so many signs. But our ordinance says nothing in the right of way, which basically would eliminate all of them.
Right.
And nobody seems to want to comply with that. So the issue is, at some point, do we tackle that to say it's okay in the right of way if it's okay with FDOT for X period of time? Or you say no, and then we'll just take all the signs out. But that puts the town in a real tricky spot, because people running for office don't like their signs being yanked and stored and stuff. So, but that's, you know, again, it hasn't been a prominent issue for us. We've been able to work through it. Most people generally comply. So that's why it's kind of sat kind of idle, but those were issues that were raised as the real estate and the political signs. So we can just
I
hold
think it's
it.
fine. the way
Yeah,
it is.
I'm gonna hold it.
I think the others can.
I'd like to move up, or at least rank the electric vehicle protocols.
Yeah.
Fire safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was high.
Yeah.
I thought that was a high
Got it.
project.
I have a pretty good marching order. And again, we'll just keep going each meeting. I'll provide an update with what I think. I sense that curated list, and then you guys could say, nah, too high, too low, move it around, just right. We'll go from
Sounds
there.
good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, where would you be placing? Are you going to move up the marine accessories, excuse me, police marine docking?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it, and
Yeah.
I have to it's kind of like you put it on multiple screens and you start to manage which one comes up and down. So there's a little bit of give and go. And like I said, I usually put them in quartiles, if you will, like, you know, by five really important, the next five, because they're generally in that zone. So.
I agree. That's in a top quartile.
And looking at the infrastructure, start to put it in for as a priority in 2025, just to start.
So I mean, we
Researching
the
it,
top 10
looking at-
projects, if you think about it, really get a lot of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other ones do too, and other projects, as we say, through the year, all of a sudden something pops up, and you
Yeah.
handled one today.
Right.
Boom, on and off,
Very
right?
efficient. Very
So, and then a couple, you know, the entry signs, I mean, it's complete. We just haven't installed them. So it's,
Right.
you know, you could almost say it's a done project. We just got to remember to get them installed at the end of the project, you know. But Sinorama doesn't want us just keeping them parked in their facility for too long, so. All right, good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
great.
Okay, moving along to town commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg.
Well, I want to congratulate the town, the police department for going, you know, beyond and doing such an exemplary job in picking up and going into the communities that need them wherever they are. And the fact that they did it and we were still covered. You know, it's not as if it left us in any jeopardy. And I also, with respect to that, I just wanted to comment at my community, which is Seagate. There was an incident that we thought was an emergency. It had to do with excessive water and some smoke coming out, which didn't turn into be a fire. But what happened within a minute and a half, I mean, it was extraordinary. The fire chief was there. The trucks came. The whole department, it seemed, was there. The fire marshal was there. The police department, the chief of police was there. And they have us covered. They have our back. And thank you. Thank you so very much. You do so much for this town. And I'm so proud of our town and what we do and our response. And just it's not only that they're there and they do the job so well, but they're so wonderful. Each and every personnel, every man and woman on the staff are just so wonderful. And when I was told, we got your back, Commissioner, you know, the community was just so appreciated. And we're very, very grateful for what you do, for every department here. But I wanted to call them out on that. Just great. 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Marshall and I attended the policy committee of the Florida League of Cities. And we're busy at work up there. Our next meeting, their next meeting will be December 5th. Unfortunately, I will not attend that because of our festivities, but I'm still in the loop. And then and I'm on, as I had reported before, the Finance and Taxation Policy Committee. And from there, it's the continuing participation in advocating before the legislature. So I look forward this year to going to Tallahassee for that purpose. And I'll continue to keep the town informed. So thank you, my commission buddies, for giving me the opportunity to do that. I really enjoy it. And it's just great to be involved for the people, for the municipalities, for the state. It's really a wonderful involvement for me. So thank you. It was a good meeting today. We did a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I'm glad we passed the vehicle take home policy for the police department. I think it's a great idea. We want to keep our officers here and not transfer anywhere else. And David, thank you for being a member of the family, continue and be a member. So I appreciate that. And I just want to remind everything about the 75th on the 5th. But I don't know if Jason has anything to add or Marshall when it's his turn to talk, but he can add on everything. And I'm looking forward to everybody to come and meet everybody. Thank you.
Just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving, since we won't
you.
meet before then. And we should all just take the time to take a breath and relax. There have been a lot of emotions, good and bad, and I think we all just need to step back and just deal with life. But yes, everyone have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And I hope your team wins.
I just want to report that we've been getting some very good feedback on the electric vehicle rules that we put in the building. We've had a number of calls. A lot of condos are looking at doing something very similar, and thanks to the fire department, they've supported it. And our stage is in putting this thing to bed is we've pretty much taken care of everything in our building, but the rules passed it all. And we've just contracted to put a charging station, a dual charging station outside the garage, on the outside in our contract parking spaces. So we've just finished, and they'll be submitting to the building department, the company, the whole setup, and I'll keep you folks posted.
Nothing from me. Moving on to town attorney.
I think the only thing outstanding is the floating vessel platform legal opinion, which will be forthcoming. I'm trying to get that buttoned up. But I also want to say happy Thanksgiving. Good to see y'all.
In the Thanksgiving spirit, I am very thankful for others that made our commendation list that I'd like to share with you. We have Captain Alexander Fernandez. We have officers Eric Lenzen, Christian Williams, and Rodrigo Landio. We also have Alicia Vidal, Cameron Abraham, and Kevin Maxwell, all in the fire department for, again, doing great work. The first list that I had mentioned for helping secure somebody in need and contacted with the Red Cross, going above and beyond, and the others for compassionate care. And again, going back to what you said with the fire department, with the police department, with our finance, the management staff, nothing but the best for the best. And that's you guys. Okay. So our organization is committed to providing the very best services for our residents. And the police department, Eric Aronowitz, for getting us the bulletproof vest grants of $15,000. Sergeant Duarte, helping with some mental health issues with that one of our residents was having, and went above and beyond to assist. So I appreciate that. And then the team that got us the Florida Inland Navigation Grant for our Marine facility, that's Officer Jim Thornton, Major O, Officer Salak, our town planner, Ingrid Allen, and our senior management analyst, Skender Coma. So again, thanks to those all that have gone above and beyond their day-to-day tasks to make this place truly the best that it can be. Also, for the project that we're working on, the management office, the three of us here are going to be working on developing a mobile app for the town of Highland Beach. We reached out to a comparable community, Marco Island, and we found, and this goes to that community engagement and communication, right? So we send out a static newsletter. By the time I write it, it goes through the publisher, it gets mailed, it's a month old. And it costs us $5,500 every time we produce that. It's a little bit more than that if you think the postage. It's about, say, 7,500 every time we do that about 10 times, 75 grand a year sending out the managers monthly, where for a cost of about 10 grand a year, we can have a mobile app where we can push all the same information out directly to them and begin to improve that level of communication where it's interactive. And then each of those points of communication, so if a resident asks a question, we can begin to share those with other residents that may have similar questions and begin to aggregate that data. Somebody walking down the street could say, oh, this grass is wrong, or there's a pothole. Take a picture, hit send. We will respond. Adam will be out there. So the team will start working on that, get the graphics together, what that'll look like. And then it's also a link or a portal into our website. So we're working on that. I think it's so we would go, the managers monthly would slowly fade away. We would have maybe like a welcome newsletter that goes out once a year that has more static information, stuff that you need to know during season, non-emergency numbers, finance department, who are the commissioners, that kind of stuff each year with bigger strokes of the pen, if you will, as to what's going on, and then get back to everybody. I find most people are adopting this quickly on the app. So that's going to go well. So we'll bring that back, show you what it looks like. It's a low cost option, very interactive. It could be to maps, to aggregating, to communicating out. Non-emergency, we still have Code Red and Community Connect when with something that's like urgent, but this is all the other pieces of communication. So we can have general dialogue quickly and spontaneously, and that'll push value added content development to the staff to kind of share their stories. And what's that? I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Those are questions the team will vet out. We just had the presentation. We got the contract proposal. Now we're going to see what all of those fine details. But yeah, those are options to when we communicate out under the town control, we could communicate those items out. 75th anniversary. You guys are stressing me out, but it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be marvelous. It's going to be fantastic. Kudos to my team. Jason, thank you for pulling the group through that. We got everything in place, right? Spending lots of money. That's the stress part for me, but it's not that bad, but it just gets to me. But it's gonna be a great event, well planned, well organized. I'm gonna recall a conversation I had with Harmon the other day. What are people gonna expect next time? That's really another panicking level. As our level gets better and better, I think you're gonna find this event is marvelous, well planned, very again using the same word again, a very curated experience to our residents to be able to engage and interact and have some fun, share the holidays, meet new friends, kick off the season. I think it's going to be spectacular. It really will. Yeah. So yeah, if you're registered, don't forget to register so we can at least have an idea how many people are showing to get a better guide. That would be great. But other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Moving on to announcements, board vacancies. We have a couple of vacancies on the Code Enforcement Board, Board of Adjustment and Appeals. We have a vacancy there. Our next meeting is December 3rd at 1:30. We have a town commission meeting. And then, of course, December 5th, we have the mingle and jingle. We are all looking forward to. I guess one question I have, I think we are slated to have another meeting December 17th. I don't know do we need that meeting?
It's up
It's
to
right
you.
before
So
the holidays.
I'm just looking at the clerk to make sure the dates are right, but yeah. so-
Or I don't know if you want to discuss it again at next meeting, whether or not we need to have that meeting.
They're your meetings.
So,
I
so
would
Commissioner
miss it.
Goldberg
I would
won't
be
be here
traveling.
anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends if something emerges that has to be dealt with right away as opposed to something that can be.
I
put
don't
off.
see anything super large that if we can't handle on the 3rd, we can't get just after the holidays on the 6th of January. 7th of January is the next meeting thereafter. Again, it gets kind of slow between the holidays. It's not a lot going on. You said people are traveling, holidays, people aren't thinking about governance. So a little bit of a break would be fine. Especially if multiple folks at the dais aren't going to be here. There's no need to unless there's like an absolute emergency, and then we'll figure that out. But everything looks pretty smooth.
So I recommend we don't have that meeting. What do we? Do you need a motion?
A motion would be helpful, and it's the second meeting of the month. So just a quick motion to cancel that meeting, and then we'll communicate
do you
that
guys
back
think?
out.
I move that we cancel the December 17th commission meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Clean.
Okay. So there are no board action reports. And with that,